It's showing 12 p.m., so I don't know if it is wrong. The time.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Sorry, say again. It's showing what?
12 p.m.
Oh, 12 p.m. Oh,
So
where is it showing the time?
when I tried to open, it was showing 12 p.m.
Oh, weird. Well, I'll check and see if there's something strange about the setup, but
Okay.
is that right?
12 p.m.
Oh, weird. Because I've got it set up for 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Huh. I'm just looking at the stuff inside. 9 a.m. Pacific. Oh, Pacific time. That's why. Okay. I will fix that. Well, isn't that crazy? Yeah, I have to go into the whole series to fix it, so I'll do that. Hopefully everybody, oh, Stephanie's in the waiting room. That's the other thing I've got. I had a Zoom account before, and anytime somebody was in the waiting room, I got this little doorbell sound like bing bong, and I knew that someone was in the waiting room. Now on this new Zoom, like I got a new Zoom account, I don't have it set up the same so that people go in the waiting room and I don't see them. It doesn't tell me there's anybody there, and yeah, so I'll have to fix that. So they were just, Stephanie, they're just telling me that when you guys log in, it tells you it's 12 p.m. So I've got it set for Pacific time. So even though I've got it set for a 9 a.m. meeting, it's in the wrong time zone. So I'll switch that up so that we're, thank you for letting me know. I didn't realize that. So all these little check boxes you have to do when you're setting stuff up, right? So good morning, good morning.
Good
And
morning.
just missing Ashka. And yeah, so I had a meeting with a couple of your supervisors, and we've got I think I've got all the meetings booked now. So we're all set. Kate, we're meeting on Friday, I think, right? And Miracle, we're meeting on Friday, I think.
On the 13th of
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both you and Kate I meet with on Friday, and Chmaka, we've got yours on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday. Okay, so Miracle, I'll do your assessment up prior to, and then I'll send it to you for you to do your part of it. And I
Okay.
know we're supposed to do it together, but I'm not sure that we've got the time, but we'll see.
Okay.
Because we've got a week before yours is due. And then everyone else, I sent you yours. So if you have filled out your portion, I think Ashka's already done hers. Fill out your portion, send it back just so that I've got a record of your part of the assessment as well.
Okay.
So Shmaka, you've got my assessment.
Yeah, I got the assessment, but I don't know to fill my own part. I don't know if it's to like to grade myself as well.
Yeah, you grade yourself however you feel like you're doing, and then we can talk about that. You know, that's the idea is you kind of know what's going on inside your head, and I just have for kind of a snapshot of how you're doing. I just have these meetings,
Yeah.
and now we have the document as well where you're going to put your resources and the work that you're doing. So once I see that work that you're doing, it gives me a better picture of how you're understanding things. So the one thing that kind of came out of the couple of meetings I've had so far is that, especially for five of us, or five of you, I think that maybe 1 hour a week is not going to be enough time to kind of work through any issues you might have and that. So I think that we will schedule some one-on-one time. And so we'll have our group meeting and everybody can share their stuff, because I think it's important for all of you to kind of get an idea, because we are doing one project. And so it's good to have not only the notes so you can see where everybody else is at, but also our discussion, our group discussion. And so we'll keep this meeting as a group meeting, but then we can either meet one-on-one right after, or we can, I've got time on Friday mornings as well. And so we can schedule separate meetings, and I'll send you Zoom links for that. And then the meeting might be 15 minutes. It might just be a chance to have that little one-on-one, or it could go the full hour. Welcome, Ashka. I was just saying that in addition to our group meeting that we're having every Thursday at 9, I think I'll schedule us for individual meetings. So me with each of you. And so that way, and as the project goes on, you may not even need that individual meeting as you get more comfortable with the project and your part in it. And so we might meet, and it might be, like I said, 5 or 10 minutes of just, chatting. And but if you've run into something, or you have some ideas you want to run by me, it's just that opportunity to have that one-on-one time. So I think that is important, especially with such a big group. And I think we'll do that. So Miracle, you and I met last week. So I'm not sure if you feel like we want to meet again, but what time, like, I'll just ask you to tell me what times work for you today or tomorrow. Would you prefer to have your one-on-one meeting today or tomorrow?
Yes. Today is fine. Tomorrow is fine. Anyone that works for you.
Okay. So either one's good for you. Kate, what about you? Are either Thursday or Friday? Okay, perfect. Yeah. And Chimaka, what about you? Oh, okay, same. Okay. Stephanie? You're on.
Anytime works for me, either Thursday or Friday.
Okay, perfect. And Ashka? Yep, same. Good. Okay, so today I do have an appointment after we're done here. And so I might book you all for Friday morning, starting 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, I guess. Yeah, so I'll just run through. I might adjust that because that's kind of late. Whoever's got the 1 o'clock is, kind of not getting your full 2 days of work in necessarily, but we can tweak that as we go. And I might, yeah. No, I was going to say I might switch it around, but no, I think for scheduling, it's nicer. I know for me, if I know that I've got this meeting at certain time every week, it's easier for me to do my stuff around it rather than having it float up and down. So we'll make it the same time each week, but I might put a couple of you on Thursday then, and then everybody else on Friday, just to even it out. I like to do things in the morning this way. Then I can, if I've got other plans, I can get out and do that later in the day. Perfect. Okay. So you've been busy with the Google Docs. Very, very good. Let me just see if I can get that up right now. And I was trying to make the page a bit different, and I was having a little bit of trouble doing that. So when I work on like a Word document, I can make the margins different and it just gets more on the page. So I was just finding that the page was filling up a little bit. So
I wasn't able to, I didn't see the Google Doc link.
yeah, Miracle, I just sent that to you this morning. So thanks for reaching out and asking.
Okay.
I totally forgot that I had to send that.
Okay.
yeah, so you've got that now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so I put your names in red so that I can see them easily because it is a lot of text. And so Kate's is running here, and I haven't gone through the details yet for each of you to say this is good or whatever. But all I was trying to do is just kind of close up the gaps. Just that's okay. Just to be able to kind of get a little more on the page. And then, so Stephanie, we've got yours there. And then, I don't know if I missed yours, Chimaka, if you've got, did you put anything in yet? Oh, you're on mute.
I think it's the last one.
The last one. Okay, so we got Ashka here. And then, am I missing? No, keep going. Oh, work-life balance.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ethan.
okay. Perfect. So I'm just going to make that big, make it red. Again, just so I can see it. And then Miracle, you're at the bottom there. So you can just
Okay,
copy yours
yeah.
in. So
Okay.
and I just threw in
Okay.
these titles. So you feel free to change them if your topic is a little bit different.
Okay.
And so you can see that the topics are quite different from each other, but you're going to have that thread through all of it. That is the addiction or the mental health piece. It may not be addictions. Work-life balance, for instance, may not touch on addictions, but it's going to touch on mental health for sure.
Yeah.
The social media is the addiction part, I think, for Ashka. And so that will be the mental health portion of that as well. So I think that we can easily put that mental health topic in all of your subjects.
Okay.
And then the second thread that's going through, so we have this thread of mental health, and we also have this thread of advocacy. And so advocacy can be extremely simple. I'll tell you a little story. I'm going to stop sharing for a bit. So I was at the dentist a few days ago anyway, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and they have the TV coming on with all of the people that work there. So it comes up and it says the dentists, and it shows their pictures and their names, and that's all lovely. And then it says the admin team, and it shows their pictures and their names. And it's kind of nice. You get familiar with people. And then it said the hygiene girls, and it showed the hygienists and their pictures. And I thought, the hygiene girls, like, why would you do that? Why would you call dentists and admin team and your hygiene girls? So it really offended me. I really thought that was really demeaning. And when my hygienist came out and got me to take me in for my cleaning, I said to her, so I was looking at the TV and I see this going on, and they got you they're calling you guys the hygiene girls. And she said, yeah, I know. And I said, well, you should not let them do that. You're a hygienist. Like you're professionals, and you have designations. You've gone to school for years to get those designations. You shouldn't let them call you girls. That's very demeaning. And she said, yeah, but I just knew from her reaction that she wasn't going to do anything about it. Some people are they haven't become advocates. And that's the difference. When you hear something that's wrong and you just accept it, you haven't become an advocate. When you hear something that's wrong and you say, I'm going to do something about that, now you're an advocate. So you're doing something. And so mentioning it to her, I knew was going nowhere. So as I was leaving, I had to go into the admin office. They were giving me a quote on some other dental work that they proposing to do. And while I was in there, I started to leave. And then I thought to myself, no, I can't leave. I have to say something. So I stuck my head back in the office and I said, can I just, and this is the Canadian part of me. I'm sorry, but can I just mention something? And she's like, oh yeah, yeah, sure. And I said, well, and I told her, I said, you know, you've got the dentist, you've got the admin team. And then I said, you have the hygiene girls. And I said, that is really very dismissive of their professional designations. And she looked at me kind of surprised and said, oh, you're right. I'm going to change that. And I thought, wow, how quick was that? That was very easy peasy, something to do, but it was the difference of noticing something and thinking this is wrong and saying this is wrong. So as you become advocates, and that's kind of the thread I want to hear in your presentations, as you're talking about your different aspects of things, how will you as a worker in the field advocate for work-life balance, advocate for healthy social media, connections, those kinds of things? Like, where would that advocacy come from? And maybe just a little voice in your presentation about how the audience can participate by. So if you see something, say something, right? That kind of thing. So it can be very, very simple. And we all, I mean, here I am, I'm not in the dental field, but I'm an advocacy person, and I saw it, and it just, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I've done something. It's a really, sometimes the result isn't as quick. That happens too, right? Oh, I'll take it to my manager and see what they can do. And that's going to just fall into the dead file. But sometimes it's a quick response like the one I got. Anyway, so that's kind of the thread of the thing. Chimalka, you have a question?
I just want to ask, what if when you approach the dentist and she didn't give you a good reply, or you get bullied or something like that, what would you have done?
So in that case, I might have, followed up with an email to them. I might have mentioned it to the dentist when I see the dentist next time. If I see that the screens had not been changed, I might then approach the dentist, who would, because they're kind of the bosses of that. I might say, this really seems offensive. I might get a little stronger in my language, but I always like to start out kind of gentle. Another example is when I worked at Fanshawe College, they started a brand new program there called Unmanned Aerial Vehicles. So it was basically drone operations. And it was all pretty new. And we would get emails about, hey, we got a new program. It's called the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. And I was like, why would they, in today's day and age, call something unmanned? Because the minute they say unmanned, do we as women see ourselves taking that program? There are some that would, but it does kind of put you off. So I emailed the coordinator of the program, and I said, or actually it was the dean, I said, I see that, congratulations, you got this great new program, blah, blah, blah. So you start out very friendly, very, this is great. I'm so glad you've got these pictures up so that we can get to know our hygienists. And then you kind of do the correcting piece. And so the answer I got back, Chimalka, is to your point. He came back to me and said, good point, Linda, but this is the language that's used by Transportation Canada, and we have no say. So I emailed, and I copied this email, so I forwarded this email. So they had the information. I forwarded to Transportation Canada, the Minister of Transportation Canada, which at the time was Marc Garneau. Marc Garneau is an astronaut. a Canadian astronaut who was the Minister of Transportation Canada. And I said, in today's day and age, it's really shocking that you're still using this language and causing the colleges to have to use this language. And I got a reply back from them, and I'm sure it wasn't Mark himself, but somebody said that there are several terms, there are at least 5 terms that they could have used. Unpiloted is another term that is part of the terminology they use and could have been used. So I forwarded that to the Fanshawe person and said, here's the response I got from Transportation Canada. Perhaps you can consider now changing the name of the program. I think it's really important. And I got another reply from them saying that they were coming up after and this all took, you can imagine, it took months. And they said that they were coming up for a program review after the first year, and that they were going to make some tweaks to the program, and they would look at that. So they did eventually redesign the program and change the name. And so it became the unpiloted, and unmanned is no longer a term that they use. So, you know, sometimes you have to kind of go at their pace, which is a little bit slower. But if you're persistent, so in the fields you'll be working in, you'll have opportunity to see into, like I worked at the college, I had the opportunity to see that. I knew who to speak to, and I made my voice heard in a very polite, you know, cooperative kind of way. And so, yeah, that's one way to do it. Copy people if you send an email. So you can start out emailing an individual. And then if you find that you're getting that stonewalling, that, oh, I can't do anything, I start copying the bosses in on it. And then they know that kind of everybody's looking. And so things start to change sometimes, but you have to be careful. And sometimes it's nicer to start with the individual to see if you can get some quick responses. But yeah, it's like the dentist thing. If the admin person hadn't been, and if I go back and it still says the hygiene girls, I'll speak to the dentist about it too. You know, I'm comfortable with doing that. So yeah, that's just a little personal stuff about advocacy. You're always, as an advocate, you're always on. You're always looking for that piece, that, you know, your mind is always clicking. And I often, that's why I said to you, when you're doing your stuff, you might be sitting there watching TV. This happens to me all the time. I'll see a commercial and I'll think to myself, oh, that's a good idea. We should be doing that for such and such. And then before you know it, instead of watching TV, I've got my tablet out and I'm Google checking stuff. And so those might be times when you're actually doing work and it's not Thursday and it's not Friday, but in your time frame, you know, you're marking your times down. Don't forget to mark down that hour or 2 hours or whatever you might have spent doing that research when it's outside of that Thursday and Friday time period. So, because you just never know, you might get sick down the road. Shmuck, I know you had a day off and you've got to make that time up. You know, your supervisors want to see that, you know, those hours. And so those other times you might be spending can be really helpful. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the project and see where people are at. So I can see, like I said, that you've got some research in there. How are you finding things? Are you having any trouble so far finding your research? Stephanie, you mentioned on our call that maybe there was a little bit of, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, for now, I don't think I'm not finding it difficult anymore, but I'm trying to put things together, like from the work I'm doing, anything I see, anything I see, I'll put it down. like write it down so that at any time I'll be able to extract, remove the ones that are not relevant to me for now. So anything I say, I try to just put it down, like write it down. Maybe before the end of this month, I think it will have a good shape.
Mhm.
Yeah, but another thing again, the resources where people can go for the work-life balance, like the resources that I saw online,
Mhm.
I've been able to search, seen one. I saw one Pacific immigration. I think it's for childcare. Is a program where what they do there, they employ just women um they employ women there for work, and the same time it's a childcare. So I tried going through their sites yesterday. I'm still researching on their programs, what they really do. Then from what I'm focusing on, the work-life balance I'm focusing on is mainly childcare, and the way immigrants, they don't really because of financial struggle, they tend to do more work to be able to sustain their families. And at the same time, they are not really having time for themselves.
Mhm.
So if there is like keeping their family, like childcare, to put in childcare where they can put their children to be able to like maybe work, and the same time when they come home, they're at ease, like they're not thinking too much, they're not really stressing themselves too much. So what I've tried to put down is the challenges to that, the barriers, the coping strategy moving forward, and to propose solution and opportunities to that. So that's what I've done so far.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at your research and I don't see any of your links to the,
Yeah, I have them already. I
yeah,
have them already. I was on it. I was doing that already, but I've not gotten to any link that I see. I put it down, but I've not really. I said earlier that I've not really like put all the links. I'm still working on it, but I
okay.
have them already. Just to start putting them one after the other.
Yeah, so for now, you can just put the links at the end of your article. So just boom,
Okay.
boom, boom, all the links.
Yeah.
And then if I need to go in to check anything,
Check it. Yeah.
as you develop things,
Mhm.
I'd like to see when you say something about proposed solutions to and advocacy opportunities. If you're pulling that from an article,
Yeah.
let us know the article as proposed by Shriver and Willis or whatever it
Yeah.
is, and their the link to that, so that so that I know that. And then if you switch partway through, so you got one paragraph maybe on their
Mhm.
proposed solutions, and then maybe there's another article that proposes different solutions, and then let me know what
Yeah.
article that's from. So that's, as we develop it,
Yeah.
as we develop down the road, not necessarily right off the bat. If you do it right off the bat, as you're putting it in, that is less work for you at the end.
Yeah.
But if you've put it in and you're going to go back and just put in the links for now, Kate, I think, has done that, where she's got a whole list of links at the end of her article. But then work them into the article. Make sure that if you're quoting different things, from a perspective, if you've copied and pasted information out of an article, make sure that that is footnoted, or you've got that link there saying that this information came from this article.
Yeah.
If you're rewriting and doing your own interpretation of it, you
Mm.
could say something like, interpretations from the such and such article,
Okay.
that kind of thing. That helps the reader to understand where these ideas are coming from.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we will start with research in a Google, you're Googling a subject, and maybe there's a newspaper article, and
Mhm.
that's fine. Newspaper articles are fine. But then maybe that newspaper article based their information on a researcher. Maybe they spoke to an academic person, or maybe the academic article, they're bringing their newspaper article from something more academic. And then what I like to do is follow it back. So go from the general information and then follow it back to the academic information. And the academic stuff sometimes is very complicated, harder to read. And maybe it's about something that's not quite your topic, but you can pull pieces out of it that address your topic. And so, yeah, when you get to the academic stuff, it's a little bit harder to get your information. But yeah, if you're pulling from Stats Canada, then throw the link in for that so that we can see where that came from.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that. Okay. Anybody else want to talk about the research?
Yeah, so I didn't have any place to put it because I wasn't sent the mail.
Yep.
So, but we talked about me working on improving care for dementia patients in long-term care homes. So I was able to put some things from some articles I read online. Some of the proposed solution we talked about, some of them are already in place, such as some of the group homes and caregivers from what the article said, but I don't think it's actually in place in some of these care homes. So we talked about a portal where the family and can have access to, like FOL in Fanshawe, where the residents' information is, so that the family can as well monitor the caregiving, the behaviors of the residents and everything. So that particular one has actually not been implemented from the articles I read. So I'm thinking if the proposed solutions that I have, if the three of them can be put in place, such as having a group home of like 3 to 6 of them, having 2 caregivers they are already used to. Because just last week, one of our professors shared that people that are suffering from psychosis, when they see unfamiliar faces or when they are in an unfamiliar environment, it kind of triggers them and they kind of see those people as their delusions. So I'm thinking if they will maintain the caregivers like they give to some of the residents, so they don't get used to different faces that gets them agitated and increase their anxiety. So if part of all these solutions can be put in place, like it's going to help. That's what I'm looking at. But maybe when I share it and look at it to see if it's making sense or I have to do something different.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. So I shared Miracle and I had a chat last week, and I talked a little bit about my father who was had dementia, and this, I think, for me, I don't know if you get training in your program, but for me, when I thought about him having Alzheimer's or dementia, I thought it was people wandered off, and I kept saying to him, Dad, do you ever find that you go someplace or you find yourself someplace and you don't know how you got there? And he kept saying, no, I'm fine. And so I didn't really know what to look for. In my dad, the way it manifested was he got a letter and he couldn't read the letter. And he got really angry because he didn't know what the letter, why he was getting this letter. So I went to visit him, and he lived alone in an apartment. And he said to me, I got this letter. I don't know what it's all about. And I was like, Dad, calm down, calm down. We'll figure it out. So I said, well, what does the letter say? And I'm expecting him to say, just read it. But what he did was he said, THE, the, WATER, water, WILL, will. So he would spell out every single word. He couldn't just read it. He had to spell the word first and then say it. By the time he got to the end of the sentence, he had lost the train of his thought because he was spelling out each word. And so basically it was they were shutting the water off for a day for some maintenance, and they were telling the residents to fill their bathtubs to flush the toilet with, and that kind of thing, right? And so, but he was so angry because he didn't understand. He felt so threatened, and I had no idea that that's one way that the dementia, kind of presents itself. And so, eventually he ended up in nursing home, and exactly what you're saying, Miracle. He went to he had to be moved to a different room. The nursing home was undergoing some construction, and they moved all of the residents to a different floor for a period of time so they could work on a different area. And there came a point where they had built a brand new building, and he had the opportunity to stay in the old building through the construction and then end up with a bigger room, or go to the new building and be done with it. And I thought exactly for what you're saying, Miracle. Every time he got moved or went to a different room, he got very threatened again. He was disoriented. It's almost like he was set back. He was losing his speech at the time. He was, his ability to cope was gone. And so I thought, it's going to be a big change to move to a different building and be in this brand new building. But at least then it's just change one time. If he stayed in the old place, he'd have to move 3 times through the course of the construction. So I chose for him to move the one time, and then hopefully he could settle into the new place. And so things like that you don't think about. You don't think about how moving somebody's room can throw them off, and it's something that has to be, considered. So good point, really good point. So I think that dementia patients is a really good one. I think that's probably a group that you're probably going to be working with in your field. Stephanie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic too. Even within homeless shelters too. A lot of our baby boomers that have been in long-term care, due to like rising costs of even long-term care facilities, lack of services in that. A lot of our baby boomers are being flagged with behavioral issues and not really looking at their dementia or their symptoms of dementia, which results in them getting kicked out of the long-term care facilities or other care services that may have, or if they were in their own private apartment or house, and they get put into the shelter systems. And it's just heartbreaking because some days they'll have amazing days, and then some days they'll come up and they won't even know like their names or how to get dressed. And it's just little cues here and there. Like, I don't know how to get dressed. Or it'll be like, I don't know what day it is. And then it's really detrimental to them. And then the next day they'll just be happy, loving life. And it's quite sad to see that more baby boomers and elderly with dementia is coming into our shelters. So I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Yeah, there was, and when you get into the nursing home aspect of things, there's so much interplay between the patients.
Mhm.
So there was a lady in the nursing home that she had this compulsion to touch. She had to touch the walls. She had to touch everything. And she just tapped lightly. She wasn't hurting anything, but she tapped people. And so she would come up and she'd start tapping people. And that's when things would go off the rails, because the people she was tapping also had their own issues and didn't want to be touched. And so one man yelled at her, and they were all sitting in the hallway, and she was coming along in her wheelchair, tapping everybody as she went. And when she got to my dad, who is a very gentle person, my dad, I've never ever seen him try to fight anybody. When she started tapping my dad's leg, he pulled his fist back like he was going to punch her. And I was sitting with them and said, don't you ever dare. And so, but that's how it happens, right? You have these interactions, and then you have somebody getting hurt. And like Stephanie says, if then that person is turned out because they're violent when they were provoked. So nursing homes are a whole other beast for mental health and, mental health of each other and the staff. I went in late one night because my dad was having some breathing issues, and the nurses and the staff were at the nurses station, and they were telling me, they were kind of whisper yelling at me to stop, stop, stop. And I was coming down this darkened hallway, and I wasn't cluing in to what was going on. Well, there was one man pacing up and down, and he was a big, big man, and he was in a zone, I guess, of losing it. And they kept saying, don't look at him, don't look at him. And that was their reality. That's what they had to live with in the nursing home. And I thought, oh my gosh, like these women were terrified that this man would attack them. And he was, like I said, a very big man, even though he was quite elderly. He was fully functional, walking and pacing, and looked like he was ready to brawl. So just not to frighten you or anything, but yeah, they're very real issues that need to be dealt with. How do we do that? So good luck with that, Miracle. I think that
Thank you.
we're all looking forward to hearing that one.
Okay.
Anyone else want to chat? So research is going okay. Yeah, good stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned that, Kate. Yeah, I'm glad you're asking, because what we're putting on is a workshop. We're not actually creating a resolution. So the resolution is really, it's a document that goes forward to government asking for some changes. And we're not doing that part. We're just putting on a workshop. So you've got an audience there, and you're going to tell your audience how to fix the problem. So you're going to talk about the problem. You're going to, and then you're going to get into so you do the big picture, and then you do the individual issues, and then you talk about how can we fix this. And so maybe you're going to tell your audience that they need to write letters to the government to fix it. Maybe that's the solution. But I would say solutions usually are based on your research. So it's more powerful to your audience if you say that after so and so, maybe Thatcher and Willis did this research into the problem, and they're recommending this as a solution. I think that tends to be more powerful than to say, after reading all of this, I think we should do this. Because your expertise is kind of at the beginning stages, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but you're basing your expertise just off of what you're reading, where your experts that you're quoting are really the ones maybe that have more clout, more. So it's better if you can find the recommendations within the research and the recommendations. So it's not a resolution. It's recommendations to change, to make changes. And yeah, so at the very end, if we can all tell the audience what they can do to be an advocate to make a change. How do we change this? You know, and the we word I think is great because it brings us all in. It brings in your audience as well as the presenters. How can we change this situation? Well, so the research of this and that tells us that, you know, we could write letters, or that the government needs to change it. And then if they are saying it's the government that needs to change the laws or the practices, then we as the public can help this by making people aware. Write letters to the editor and get it in the newspaper, or write letters to your MPs, because member of parliament is federal, and if you're asking for changes to the federal government for immigration, then that's probably who you'd want to write letters to, is the MPs. Have a discussion with your MP. You know, go to their office. They have office hours. Every MP has office hours. Go down there and talk to them and say that you went to this workshop and you heard this great speaker named Kate talking about immigration, and now I, as a citizen, want to follow up and want my MP to do something, you know. So whatever the recommendation is, it should be something real that people can do. Is that clear? Yeah, so not a resolution. Okay. Yeah, when I saw resolution, I thought, oh, that's maybe something we should talk about. A resolution is another interesting process. But I think these speaker events, you get a lot of good out of them, and it's immediate. You're going to put on the event, you're going to put on the speaker event, and you will see, you know, right away your audience will. One of the things the last group did, so we had a speaker event, I think it was last week, right? And I think Kate, you joined or were going to join. And their event was, that was a different group of students, and their event was about women health in healthcare. So how healthcare for women is not taken as seriously as healthcare for men. And so they showed all kinds of examples of where women were told just to kind of wait it out, whether they had pain and all of that for some of their symptoms. They were told that there's nothing that could be done, or waited out, where men were actually treated. And so, and they even showed how the funding dollars were different for research for men's issues as opposed to women's issues. So in their workshop, they actually had a link for people to give reflections, give responses. And they did that near the end, but they actually incorporated it into the talk. So they said, okay, here's the link, and we're going to give you a few minutes right now to go in and post your thoughts about this workshop and tell us whether the workshop, you know, there were a bunch of questions like, how can we make it better and stuff like that. And they really got some good feedback, what people liked about the workshop, what they thought could have been better, that kind of thing. So you might want to think about something like that in your workshop, and to have, like, I don't know, in their workshop, it was a link to an online survey, I think, or something. So you can certainly do those. I think Google has an online survey that you can get people to do and incorporate it right into the very end of the workshop. So, and they did something else that I'm such a dinosaur when it comes to technology, but you may do this in your classes where there's a link that you go to and people put Post-it notes up. And so it's kind of like an ideas thing, like you want to generate ideas. And so I know you've only got 20 minutes for each, but you could incorporate it into the end of the whole thing if that's something that you want to do, is attach those techie things. I sat there, I took the link, I went to the link, and I sat and looked at the screen thinking, well, how do I put my text in? Like I couldn't even see. They didn't give instructions about how to use it. They just gave the link and said, go and do it. And then I started seeing everybody's Post-it notes popping up. And I thought, oh, okay, then there's a way to do this, but I just don't know how. And so I just read their Post-it notes that everybody else was posting. So some kind of fun reflection things, whatever you want to think about. That's maybe something we'll talk more about next month or later. Have we picked a date yet for the event, the actual workshop? We talked about April. You guys are done in April. So we could either do it on April 2nd. That's the weekend of Good Friday. So the 3rd is Good Friday. So that's probably not a good weekend. There's April the 9th. I don't know if that's too far along. Is that too close to your exams? I'm thinking evening for audience participation, like a 7 p.m. Zoom thing is probably best for attendance. Unless you want to pick a different night of the week, but I just picked the 9th because that's your normal time. And I think the following week, you guys are probably getting into exams by April 14th, 13th, 14th, I would think. Yeah, we don't want to get too far into that. Yeah. Friday night is not a good night to do stuff like that. Thursday night would be better because Friday night is date night in everybody's life, isn't it? Isn't everybody on a date Friday night? No? I like to call it date night, but I actually go dancing with the girls every Friday nights. Okay, so I'm going to put it in here.
Yeah, 'cause I think our assignment for student summary of field placement is due on April 10th. Let's see here. And then our field seminars. So I'm assuming that is around the time frame of when the professors want everything in.
We can
Yeah,
edit.
and our final student of peer evaluation is due on April 10th as well. So that actually works pretty good, I think.
Okay.
And that's just my personal opinion. I can't speak for everyone else. But yeah, then that I think is the time frame because I'm looking at all the other classes and it's right around the same time frame of when things are due. So I'm assuming final marks go in the following week, I guess.
Okay. So that gives us all of March minus the break week. Could we figure out when your break week is?
Yes,
Is it February?
February the 16th to 22nd.
That's right. So we're going to meet. We've got a meeting next week and then your break week, and then we'll come back. So I would say that we want to make sure that your research is finished by the end of February. And then we have March to start putting together the workshop. Now, in addition to the workshop, you may want to do you know, because you're going to create your slides, and it would be nice if our slides are similar, you know, like, you know, kind of using the same template and putting the slides in. So you pretty much have the same color scheme. So that might be something that you want to work a little more closely together on to make sure that it's not a big stark difference between just for continuity of your audience as they're seeing the information. And then you're gonna create the slides, and you're gonna create speakers notes so that whether it's a separate document, but every slide, so you'll say slide, maybe it's slide number 15, and what is it you're going to say when that slide comes up? What are your speaker notes? So that if I took it over from you, I could give the exact same talk. So somebody else could present it and still be able to give all of your information. And that takes a while, right? It takes a while to hone down your research into those slides and the speaker notes. What do you really want to present? Because you're going to have you're going to have like the big end of the funnel for your research, and then you've got to start to pull that down into the funnel for what pieces are you going to give to the audience. And you don't want to go so fast. That was the one comment I made to my team last week, that they had so much information and they went through it very, very quickly. And some of the information is a little bit harder to grasp. And so you may want to stop and repeat a couple of phrases. Like, you know, this is something that we all, what's the phrase they say about your kids are going to pick your nursing home? You know, those kinds of things that if you have any pearls of wisdom that you're going to give out, you may want to stop and pause and reflect rather than just rushing right through. So those are the timing things that you'll rehearse and figure out as you go. And we can even the week before have a run through of it if you want to do that, just to and I can record it, so it's just the 6 of us on the call, and you can do your presentation, and then I can send you the recording and you can watch it to see how your timing went and whether you were pleased with the way that you presented, and then do your final tweaks from there. So that kind of gives us time, right? So yeah, so we'll do that. So let's aim for research done by the end of February. Everyone feels good about that? Okay. All right. And then we'll have our one-to-one meetings. I'll start them up tomorrow. I'll send you all each a link for your meeting, and then we can see how it goes from there. Okay. So any other thoughts or questions before we wrap our group event? Miracle, you've got the connection now, so you can put your research in. Chamanka, you're going to put in your links that go with your research, and anybody else that needs to put links in, go ahead and do that into the document. Yeah, I'm very pleased. I just want to say that I'm really happy. I think you guys are on track. You're doing very, very well. We're going to have a really good event. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the end product for sure. Okay, all right, I'll let you go then. And off you go to research, and I'll send you those links for your meetings tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.